we're going to talk about how to maximize your live auction. Yeah. So,
episode 114 of the
114. Yeah.
Series.
Thank you guys so much for being here. If you're here live, make sure you stay to the end and win. We're going to give away a trip to somebody you can use for the next fundraiser. If you're watching this on recording and you hear something you'd like to, you agree, disagree, give us a comment, some feedback, let us know how we're doing. We definitely want to get that. And throughout the period, if you've got any questions, you can use that chat. Let's talk to us. Let's have a conversation.
I love that.
So,
I love that.
Trevor, it's funny. We talk about live auction and, just to get it out there, we're in the trip business. We offer trips and experiences people can use for their auctions to raise more money and software platform, things like that. But we're going to talk about, we're not really going to get into that specifically. What we're really going to talk about is trying to get things lined up for your live auction, because everybody's live auction is a little bit different. There are some rules that are absolute. There are some things that are just absolutely across the board. It doesn't matter. They matter. They're the same. And it really doesn't matter what part of the country you go. People say, oh, well, mine's a little different. Yeah, they are all a little different. And so we want to be cognizant of that. But the main thing is, what happens a lot of times is we start looking at things, we go, well, we got to get some stuff for the live auction. And that's kind of how it goes. What do we got? I don't know. Well, I got somebody said they'd donate a lawnmower. Okay, well, we'll put that. There's one. We got anything else? And that's just the way we start building our live auction, something that we're doing all this work to get there to raise money. And we do all these things. And then we kind of throw something together at the last minute. Now, I know there are also people who plan significantly time ahead. Okay. You're months and months and months ahead. You're thinking about your auction, what you're going to do. What I want to challenge you to do is to think about it from the standpoint of how much money you want to raise, instead of going, well, I got to see what I can get. Let's start with the end that we want. What is our desired outcome? And then let's back into it for there. Okay. Now, the sooner you start, the better off you're going to be. But that's where we need to start. And, we need to find out then what's possible. What's the capacity? Questions that I like to ask. And I've got some things I'm going to put up here. And, we'll send all this out in the recording, and so you can look at it and follow some of this stuff up. But just to give you some ideas. Wrong one.
Well, that was cool, though. The way it just popped up like that on your screen.
Yeah.
That was kind of...
Yeah. You got to figure out how much money's in the room.
Do we have the right people in the room?
Yeah. How much money is in the room? What is the capacity? We've worked real hard to get all this stuff going on. Now we got to figure out what in the world do we have that's available that we can get going. And so what does that mean? Well, how do we do that? Well, there's a couple of ways that you can have an idea, because what happens is we all sit there and go, well, I don't know. And when I started doing this, being around charity auctions and doing this stuff 30 years ago, I'd go to somebody and say, hey, where's all the money? Well, this table over here and this table over here and this table over here. And 9 times out of 10, those people never bid anything on anything, never raised their hand, never did anything.
Right.
And so I realized that that's not the way you can't look at it from, you can look at it from a micro aspect of who the individuals are, but we really need to look at it from the macro. So there's certain rules. We know, what are we charging for a ticket?
Yep.
Okay. That makes a difference. And you say, well, we don't sell tickets, we sell tables, but you look at that and say, okay, what's the minimum table? And you say it's $2,500. Okay. What's the maximum? 25,000. Pretty much you can handle anything. I mean, you're within reason. You're going to be able to you're going to have significant capacity in the room.
There's some cool stuff in the live auction.
Yeah, you can put some cool things in there and do some things that are going to raise some serious money. But I think that the idea is, then what is the most money that you've ever raised before? What's the most expensive item you've ever sold? What did you do last year? I'm going to give a great example. Trevor and I have a fantastic example of how this is not always true. You cannot always look and say, well, this is what's going on. It's not always a predictor.
No, because
but it's an indicator. Okay. It's not a predictor, but it's an indicator of what's possible.
These are data points. These are data points, but
so, you look and say, okay, well, the most expensive item we had was $4,000. You go, what was it? Well, it was a puppy. Okay. So now we know we've got capacity in the room. Because not everybody wants a puppy, but we've got enough people in there that like puppies that, and love our mission that they're willing to raise their hand.
Yeah.
Point is, you just got to go through. It doesn't matter what it is, but you got to look at those things to see what kind of capacity that we have. You know, do we have the kind of people that can write a check for $10,000 and not miss it? Okay, we do.
That's a great
How
question.
many do we have? Well, we got a bunch. We don't have very many. No, we've got a few of those, but we've got to adjust accordingly because we want to try to draw the maximum amount of money out of the room.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, those two questions, what does it cost? Because that's the question I always ask. Trevor does. We say, well, what's your ticket price? What, tell me about what's going on.
Yep.
What's the most expensive thing that you've ever sold? What
Mm-hmm.
was it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now how much money do you want to raise? So when we say, well, how much money, we're talking about net dollars to your mission. We're not talking about a gross revenue. When we say raise more revenue, we're talking about revenue to your mission.
Yep.
So, we talk about things. And then we say, well, what do we want? Well, before we go and say, hey, does anybody have any good ideas? What we wanted to do today is share with you what we know works. These are things that it doesn't matter where you're at, what you're doing. This is what they do. They just works.
And we also want some feedback from y'all as to what has worked, because I'm actually very interested with all these data points. We're in the live, we're a lot of our events. I mean, 1,000 events this year, Jay, right? And we're tracking in 2023. I'm very interested in hits and misses. I think they can both be great teachers, right?
Sure.
We're very, very fortunate. We don't experience a lot of misses. So it's awesome. And that speaks to, how amazing our clients are, but we have had misses. I want to hear about them. And I also want to hear about the hits. So I think they can both be great teachers. So feel free to share those in the chat feature, Q&A at the bottom if you have any questions, stuff like that. And we'll get into what we're seeing that's working, because that's the business that we're in. And
this is just to give you the feedback.
For sure.
These are the data points of what we see, what's
raising money, raising money. And then also, and I'm probably putting the cart in front of the horse a little bit, Jay, but what also is really, really amazing and what we're seeing at an unforeseen rate right now is that we're seeing folks buy high ticket price items, high reserve price items at not an alarming rate, but at a rate we haven't seen before. Okay.
Yeah, it's well, and we're going to come to that and talk about that here in just a second. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
We're seeing on our side where, instead of it all being the low end stuff, it's the high end stuff that's bringing money. And it's
I think having a nice dichotomy. I think having a nice dichotomy of both, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paula, absolutely. Paula had a question about marketing before event. Well, we implore folks to do that. We have folks that will add a live auction item a week before an event, and they're so squared away, and they have a great auctioneer, and they have great donors and a lot of support, and they'll sell that item 10 times. I don't think that's lightning in a bottle. That happens a lot. It would be lightning in a bottle for an organization that hadn't done that before, and that wasn't advertising. So once again, putting the cart in front of the horse a little bit here, but in answer to your question, Paula, we think that having unique trips and experiences, whether they're consigned or not, is a great advertising tool, right? It can get folks excited. It gets them buying the tickets. It gets them excited about the event. I say this every week now. I'm just about saying this every day because we're coaching folks every day. Donors are consumers, and consumers are conditioned to want those things and to see those things and to get excited about things that they, Jason will say that they don't regularly have access to, or you just can't buy on your phone. And we say this every week pretty much when we talk about auction items. People don't want junk.
No.
So if you've got a really cool experience, you know what I mean, that you can capitalize
and that's where,
with the advertising,
and that's where we're going right here. Travel and experiences, that's what people want.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, people of high net worth. Okay. Let's think about it from that standpoint. Let's not think with our checkbook. Let's think about it. What do people that we want to see bid? I can't tell you how many times you go see go to an event and they go, wow, none of the big bidders bought anything. Because you didn't have anything they wanted.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't want, there's nothing there they wanted. They don't
And
need a lawnmower.
that's what we
Okay.
mean by saying leaving
You
money on the
know?
table, because those folks are ready to buy something,
Yeah.
right? They're ready
So,
to buy and give.
and it's what do they want? So the things they want travel experiences, and you break that down into 4 categories. That way you touch everybody.
Love it.
Okay.
Food
And
groups.
I'm not talking about consignment here. I'm talking about just stuff in period. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just in general, the slots that you want to fill. Um, International, beach travel, and then once in a lifetime experience. So let's talk about those. Let's take, what I mean by that.
Mm-hmm.
So on a domestic, when we talk about domestic travel, that means right here in the good old USA.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I want to mention when I'm talking about trips and experiences and travel, again, there's ways that you can go. We're going to talk about how you go get these things to be in your event,
Mm-hmm.
not just consignment wise. What I want to say is people, they don't want stuff anymore. They've had enough of it. They got plenty of stuff they can go get, but they want to go get things. And I hear people say, well, I don't want to be too trip heavy. I'm like, well, nobody wants to buy anything else. We're seeing it. Andy just gave a great example. We've got this playhouse that was the volunteers
Right.
build, and we've sold it a few years and it did really great. But then guess what?
Yep.
Everybody that wanted a playhouse has bought a playhouse, and nobody wants a playhouse anymore because I don't have room for 2. I've already got one.
Yeah. And let me
Only
piggyback
got
on
one,
that.
I've got one grandkid.
Let me
Or I've got,
piggyback.
I don't need 2. So
Yeah.
again, these are things, and I'm going to come up with there's something at the end. We're going to talk about renewable, things that we can do multi years.
But let me piggyback
So,
on that as well with the playhouse point. Is, Andy, I bought a playhouse for my daughter on Amazon. It's just not bespoke, right? So that's probably why it ran its course. Over the last few years, it worked fantastic, great, but and it kind of just, like I said, ran its course. It's the same thing. I was just talking to a client that they have a live auction Saturday night, and I was really trying to dissuade the executive director, who's a really nice fellow and is using consignment for the first time, but I have to be very, patient, with folks and sensitive to their learning curve and whatnot, and try and help them as much as I possibly can. But they had an entertainment center in their live auction. It was a TV and like a headset for gaming. And I'm like, I said, I really don't think that's live auction worthy. And he said, why? I said, because everyone has one already. It's not bespoke. It's not, I could have one delivered from Target to my house today. It's not getting me up out of my seat. You know what I mean?
well, and everybody knows what it's worth.
Precisely,
Relatively.
brother. Precisely. So
There's no
that's
extra
another great
value in it.
example. Yeah. Yeah. And those things are all
Well,
great, but you get my point.
we're talking about, these. So whenever you're looking at travel and you're looking at trips and things, okay, who do we have access to? Does somebody have a home? Does somebody have, a cabin, a second home, something that they're willing to do? If they do, great. Then you've got something. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We've got somebody. And, we've got somebody that has a place in Santa Fe and they've got a home and they're going to let us use it and blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. We crossed that one off the deal.
Awesome.
What about international? Well, actually, we do have somebody, they've got a place in Cabo. They've got this really cool deal. They've got this house and they're going to put this together or something like that. Okay, great. We've got that one. So let's just mark that one off. Do we have anything at the beach? Because this is what people want to do. In default, they want to go to the beach. Well, we really don't have it. We've got the house in Cabo. That may be 2 of them. But then we go, okay, once in a lifetime. All right. And I'm talking about, so we can scratch that one off. So we come once in a lifetime. What do we have? Well, we do have a board member whose sister's an astronaut. Awesome. Could we do a meet and greet with that person? Well, yeah, I think we could. All right. Now we're getting something once in a lifetime. Something that, you can't just go get and have access to. Something you can't buy. Okay.
Yes.
People that have significant ability and capacity, they want things that they can't just go buy, because if they can already go buy it, they already bought it. If they want it, they've got it. And so people that can write the checks for $10,000 and not miss it, they've already got it. They've already done that. They've already made that move and do it. And so when you're saying, well, I don't know if we've got anything, I don't know if we've got something, that we could do that. Well, you got to find out. Most powerful fundraising tool right here, make a list of everything and sit there and go through it as you're profiling. The people exercise. Can they write a check for $10,000? Can they fill a table? Do they have access? And you're sitting there going, do they have access? What is the access? Yeah, they've got a beautiful home in Aspen. Now, they may
Perfect.
or may not let you use it, but you can ask. Doesn't
Absolutely.
mean that you're going to do it, but you can ask. And so that's where, it comes in to see what do we have. So, things that you can't buy. Things that you can't buy readily
Yeah.
are special access, naming rights,
Love that. Selling the naming rights to a building or what have you. I love that.
parking spot. Well, I'm going to come back to that one in a little bit on the building, but things like that. Reserve seating.
Mm-hmm. VIP
Um,
access,
so
backstage. Yeah.
yeah, these are
That's
things that what do we have access to? So let me give you an example. I'm going to use a school for instance. Okay, this is something we work with a lot of schools, and this is something we see, and we go, okay, what do we have that people want? So when we say naming rights, okay, naming, I'm not talking about naming a building. Usually, when you're naming a building, it's like a $500,000 type deal. It's really a big money or multi-million dollars and things like that. I'm talking about something small. So there was a school. They had a little signpost out in front of it. It wasn't a regular street. It was called, school crossings way or something like, whatever the name was. I said, I said, is that like stuck? Can y'all use that? And they go, no. I said, why don't we just offer it? And they go, what do you mean? I said, let's sell it. Sell the naming rights. Yeah. For 1 year, 1 school year. They go, oh, really? Because they were thinking, one and done. It's like, no. 1 school year, they get to put their name. I can't hear you, bro.
Sorry, brother. Oh no, I wasn't.
1 year. So the name, in other words, it's a naming right of something. It doesn't have to be a signpost. I'm saying it could be anything, but just limit it to 1 year so you have a renewable deal. Parking spaces. Parking is at a premium a lot of things, especially like schools, events, different things. And there may be something that you can get access to. I know, the law firm my wife works for, one of the partners has these great tickets to University of Oklahoma football games. Great tickets. But you know what's better, as almost as valuable that's awesome, is the parking pass.
Mm.
The seats are great. They're fantastic. It's all good. But the parking pass, because you don't have to walk. You drive right up, right in the parking garage, go down the elevator, walk right over into the seats, and you're there. It's the coolest thing ever.
That's super cool.
That's what people with money like to pay for. Parking passes, parking spots, reserved seating. If you've got something in I know there's a lot of people that do things like in the performance world where, they're like, it's choir, choral, society, ballet, deal, things like that. How about special access for that?
Yeah.
People eat that stuff up,
Exclusivity.
So what's your, and they go, well, like, how many shows do you have for your season? They go, well, we've got 4 shows. Okay. What if you said for 4 shows for this, they get their choice of access of one place with the elite seats? What do they cost? They told me, what I said. So we auctioned it off. It brought 10 times what they would have sold the seats for per show. So it actually brought 40 times what it was access to.
Mm-hmm.
They still had the rest of the shows they could sell, but for those 4 shows, and I don't remember what it was. I think it was, instead of it being, $150 a seat, they brought 1,500, still for like $6,000, something like that. And so those are ways that, you can do things that'll raise significant money. You just got to dig, and everybody has it. Everybody, not one time have I ever worked with somebody that we've not, somebody hasn't done that. They really looked and they start pushing, they found something. So those are things I invite you to do to maximize the dollars. Find those things that you can't buy. Nobody wants a lawnmower or a washing machine or a bedroom suit or any of that stuff. No one. A VIP table for next year's event is a fantastic,
super smart.
Is a fantastic idea.
Yep.
VIP means a lot to a lot of people.
Yep, there's exclusivity.
People that have significant capacity or those that want to have access. See, there's 2 sides to that, because, I don't have the ability to play in those numbers to go get that deal. But maybe I could buy a table through this way and
Mm-hmm.
get VIP access. I'm not a $50,000 donor, so I'm not going to get that side, but maybe I could do $5,000 and I get, I'm just making up numbers, Becky. I don't know what
Yeah.
it's doing, but things like that you can do that people want. They want exclusive. They want early access, something special. We have a trip to the Opry. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because one of the cool things is they pick you up in a golf cart. You don't wait in line at the front like everybody else does. They pick you up in a golf cart. They take you around back to the entry where all the stars go in, all the performers. Then you have your own private waiting room. And it is private, and I say waiting room, it's just like beautiful, room where other performers hang out. And then you get to go get on stage.
Mm,
That's what things are. That's what people want. They want access. Okay.
absolutely.
So, any more
Can I
questions
ask a
on that,
question?
on access or, things or how to tie stuff together?
Linens Random Goodies usually sells for around 10K. Becky, has anyone, odd question maybe, but has anyone bought the VIP table for the next year that you had never met before? That was a first time attendee, possibly? Just out of curiosity. Thanks always for being so willing to share. Not since I've been here. Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah. But you know what? It's somebody you have to go deeper with somebody that maybe they've
100%.
not,
It's an opportunity
you know?
to have a conversation. It's
So
another reason to say thank you, which is just
one
another
of the
big
things
door
that,
opener.
and this is the example I wanted to use. We had this past weekend, we worked with a group, had an event, and it was interesting because we worked with them getting underwriting and sponsorships and
Okay.
all this kind of stuff, and really coached them on to do that. And then they had this live auction. They had several items in the auction that they had to do well. They had to do very well for it to make money. Again, it's about them making money. Well, the coordinator for the auction calls me and says, "Hey, I've got some concerns." Or actually calls Trevor, excuse me, calls Trevor. Yeah, I've got some real concerns. They've
Two
never
days
done
out,
more than
2 days
they,
out from the event.
they've never done more than $4,500 in the live auction.
Yeah. With
And Trevor
150
goes, "Hey,
people in the
would
room.
you talk
Yeah.
to her?" So I
Yeah.
talked to her, and I just said, "Well, you know, first, we didn't just throw some stuff in this event. We've worked with these folks. They've got the right people in the room, but they've never had anything that was worth anything."
Yeah.
And it's
So it
funny
was a
to me
little bit of
because
a gamble. I
she
think it was
goes,
a little
"Well,
bit of a
I've got
gamble.
7 years. We've got 7 years of track record. They've never done anything." Well, I'm just gonna honestly, behind the scenes, would never say this to them. And if they hear it on this, it's okay. But Trevor and I are going, "Well, you guys aren't doing your job then. If you're
Yeah.
charging and you're coaching and you're doing all this, you don't wait till 2 days before the auction and go, 'Hey, yeah, I buzzkill. Don't do
Yeah.
that.'" That's
I did
and
I
that
did candidly
they were,
say I thought the event was underachieving in the
yeah.
live auction. So and we thought it was. We really did. And I guess you could say it was
Well,
kind of
it was
controlled.
underperforming
Yeah.
because they stole $40,000. They raised 40 grand in the live
In the
auction.
live auction
Yeah.
last weekend. Yeah. So we were
One
so
item, one item netted. It was a consignment item, it was one of ours. I'm not
yeah,
saying it was, but one item netted more money than they'd ever raised in
in the
gross in their
entire
live
live
auction
auction.
before,
Yeah. So
because people
that
didn't
was
want
cool.
crap.
But you were coaching, back to what you originally said. You were coaching this client. We helped them with software. You were coaching them on sponsorships, underwriting, getting the right people in the room.
Mhm.
In February, I was in the room with you when you were doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So so there was it was a very, very strategic approach. And it was basically, once again, it was capacity in the room. There was 150 people. It was a lovely mission. The ticket price was $350. So I mean, what we were able to deduce that there was opportunity
Mhm.
there. And it worked out. We're really, really grateful for that. It worked
I,
out.
I
And
want to, I want to back up to what Becky's talking about with this table.
I like the table
So
thing.
this is a really
We're
good
gonna go ahead and
thing.
use that, Becky. Sorry.
This is a
We're gonna
big
start telling people
deal.
about that.
This is
Yeah.
a big deal that, she's talking about the VIP table. Same lady has bought it every year, okay, for the last 3 years. So it becomes a deal. How do we, we can unseat Tina approach, because we get ego involved. I want to tell you, when you have things that people want, things that they can't just ordinarily go get, things that they can't. That's when ego comes into play. Okay.
For sure.
I mean, it just does.
For
You know,
sure.
what they want to be the top person. They want to feel the bet. They want to sit in the front row. That's why, you know, it's kind of funny. We had somebody talking about capacity. You know, what's the most money you've ever raised? Well, we've sold from $15,000 tables. What's the most you ever asked for? 25. We said double it. She goes,
Perfect.
well, we've never even done 25. I said, sure, but maybe, you know, let's just play the odds. Well, she sold 1 for 50, 2 for 25, because people, their perception of this event was that it was elite. Okay. Oh, they've got a $50,000 sponsorship. That must be something that I need to be at,
There must be
because
something going on.
I'm a $50,000 donor. So all of a sudden people start showing up. There's a perception to everything. And, you know, we were talking about advertising before the event.
Yeah.
So there's an event that we did, and this was a put together setup. They had there's a gentleman in my community. He has a $75 million, something like that. I think it was $75 million house in Napa. Okay. It's something spectacular, vineyard, all the stuff. The trip was, you flew out on his jet and you went out there to go out and stay the night, drank wine, and then you came back.
Mm-hmm.
Brings $100,000, $100,000. Guy that bought it has plenty of money. It's not a trip. Number one, he knows what it costs to go fly on a private jet because he charters them, so he knows it's access, and he wanted some time. He wanted to go get the deal. Would he have given $100,000 for anything else? Nope.
Probably
because
not.
he's you know, it's something that it was accessible. It was something that he could have access to, basically a billionaire, you know, and his stuff. And this guy's worth a couple $100 million. So, you know, we're talking about ego. Now, I know everybody goes, well, yeah, I don't have that stuff in my auction.
That's fine, but that's
you don't yet.
points. Yeah.
You don't yet.
Yeah.
But they advertised this. And this is an event that's been around for a very long time. It's a very well established nonprofit. They've worked really hard to build this up. And so you've got this expectation when you put that out there and they start advertising it and they're inviting people. And that's what people show up. They know this is something exclusive. This is something special, which, you know, one begets another. You say, well, guess what? Yeah, we've got an exciting time tonight. We've got a riding lawnmower and a bedroom suite.
Yeah.
Does that get everybody excited here? Want to go?
Not excited.
You know, do you want to go put a tuxedo on?
I just heard Charlie Brown's.
You want to put your best dress and go get your hair blown out so you can go bid on a riding lawnmower? Doesn't really get you all that jazzed up.
No offense to the entertainment center either. I'm so sorry I use that as an example. That's really
well, I'm just saying it's you know, 30 years ago it was fine, but now it's not, because it's the novelty's worn off.
When plasma TVs came out in the 90s, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Yeah, so we have to realize that the same way that we've always done things is not necessarily what's going to work. It's proving itself in real time to us that's not what's going to work.
Well, you know, and the other thing, the trend is it's less is more. You know, it used to be, you know, 30 items and 12 to 15.
Now we're seeing,
you know, we're seeing it's kind of like 6 to 8 because of time. You know, you've only got people, they got to go. We got stuff to do. We've got to honor person. We got to do this thing, got that. So we need to get in, get out, raise our money and move on. I want to talk about something else. And this is called buy in versus buy all.
Yeah, I love that.
And I've got a great example to use. This has happened to, you know, and I didn't come up with this. I saw somebody else do it, and it was a opportunistic thing, and it was brilliant. So when I say a buy in versus buy all, what I mean by that is so let me give you an example. Organization that we work with, they always have their event at a restaurant, and it's a really cool restaurant. It's kind of I say it's a big sorority house because it's all kind of cut up, and it's really a very unique event. But they had this restaurant owner was going to do a soft open. It coincided with this event, going to be like 60 days after. And they said, hey, what if we just sell tickets to this? So they sold tickets for $250 a couple, and sold, I think, 40 seats to it,
Mm-hmm.
and sold out every one of them for a soft launch, completely donated. It was a really cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
The restaurateur got to have people that were, he hoped would be his um, clientele. They get, VIP access to come see this, and the nonprofit made some serious money. So we took that idea and have used it for some other stuff. And so uh, here about a month ago, we had a nonprofit that had a party for 50 people, party for 50. They had catering, they had the venue, they had entertainment. And the DJ was a well-known guy around their area. And they were talking about to auction this off. Well, their auction capacity was somewhere in that 5 to 10,000, it was $5,000 to $6,000, $7,000 range. And I was like, that's probably what it's going to bring. But I said, well, what if we do something different? What if we're going to sell it $400 a couple. It's a date. The date's already set. We don't have to coordinate anything. We don't have to go put it together. It's a specific time. And we just say, you know what? We're going to have you sign up. We've only got enough room for 25 couples. They sold 23.
Hmm.
So you can see how the math works. It gets pretty quick. No, I'm sorry. They sold 43. Yeah. They raised $17,000 because it's for 100 people. So great way to do something that's a buy-in versus a buy-all, because how many people would have bought the whole thing? Not very many. There's not very many people that they had in their room. In fact, the most expensive item that they had in the auction brought $4,900, and it was a dog. Now they had some other things that sold. They sold very well. But that one item, it was a party. Hey, it's an exclusive party. Bev has got a deal like that in her event coming up, and we talked about it. And I said, well, instead of us selling this thing, let's just go put this together and do a buy-in, and make it per person. And so that's what they're working on, getting the rest of it put together so they can do a buy-in, because they'll sell it easy, and they'll raise instead of raising $1,500, they'll raise $5,000.
Becky, you had 12 items in your live auction. I know, I'm just asking because it was recent and it went really, really well. Oh, we had 14. Okay. How many buy-ins would you recommend doing in one event that has a total of around 14 items? Interesting. It's a good question, Becky.
Well, I mean, it just depends. Well, in the buy-in is more about what you have. You got to kind of go with, what do you have? What do we have access to?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, if you've got a dinner and you've got the right people. We did a deal. We had, it was a dinner for 8. We had 2 politicians, opposing side of the aisle, the state minority leader and the state majority leader. Mm-hmm. Wonderful people, great supporters of the organization, really good. I mean, these are solid folks, and we're not talking national, we're talking just state politics.
Yeah.
And they said they would do it. So we auctioned it off with a dinner. We went, and I say the organization, they went and got a restaurant and said, look, we'll help with the food and help with the deal. We got somebody to, sponsor the wine, put this dinner package together, and put everything done. Brings $10,000 each, both of them, 2 times, 10,000. Okay. And you got to play a little politic fun and have a little fun. Oh, we can't let the Democrats bring more than the Republican. We can't, back and forth and that kind of stuff. And it was a lot of fun. And my point of that is, in that case, it worked really well to auction it off, because that way one person got it. They kind of got to set the tone, what they want, and put it together. I'll tell you something that has done very, very well. We auctioned off, there's a gentleman here in my community. He's a retired banker, very, very thoughtful, very, well thought of gentleman here. And we auctioned off lunch. It was lunch with him. They brought $4,000, because he's not somebody that you can pick the phone up, and he's a very well thought of, but that's the thing. He's not that accessible. Yeah. But it brought $4,000, and he was tickled to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you know athletes that are, alumni or, someone in your hometown, I one of my dearest friends is a Hall of Famer in the Canadian Football League and won Grey Cups, which is their Super Bowl. And he was at my house last weekend. If I was doing a fundraiser in my town, I would pick up the phone and I would ask him, "Hey, man, will you have lunch or come speak?" And that was actually a thing that was auctioned off, and he came and spoke to a local Rotary, and I saw it. That's just another one of those examples. If you know someone and you have access to that person, I think you have to take advantage of it. And Jason, you talk about with the people exercise, you need to lean on your board and committee to do that, right? And to bring out their phones, right? And start contacting people in their Rolodex and who they know and who they have access to. If you're not doing that, we implore you to do so right away. Even if the experiences are different, to do multiple buy-ins at one event.
I mean,
I think if they're different,
I would keep it,
unique,
I like being one. I mean, I
one
think
really
having
cool one.
one is because, let's say that you do a golden ticket raffle. And so, you're buying something there for $100 or $200, somewhere around there. And then you've got this other thing that they're buying it for an experience. It's different because, everybody's going to get to go. So it becomes about time. If each item takes 3 minutes and a buy, and you may have a buy-in experience where they're all sold out. In the case of the one I'm talking about, where they sold 43 of them or 47 out of 50. And they wound up selling all of them, by the way, after the fact. They almost sold all of them before it even started.
Becky, what was
So
the
it wasn't
best-selling?
like it was a big time thing. They just had some sheets. They literally had a sheet up there, had a poster with the experience of what was going to happen, all the stuff, and said, "Here's what it is, $400." And everybody just starts putting their name and number down.
Yeah.
Literally just started writing their name in. And what that did, and I prefer, this is kind of one of those things where sometimes technology will play against you in this kind of experience, this thing. The reason it goes a little against it, because people start looking to see who else has signed up.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, the Nelsons are going.
Yeah, they did it.
That must be something. Back to ego. I don't want to miss that if the Nelsons are going. Oh, the Andersons going. Judy Anderson's signed up. I really want to be there. Beverly, she's going to. Becky, oh my gosh. This is the kind of stuff.
Paula had a cool question. Becky, I had a question real quick. What was the best-selling live auction item other than the table, the VIP table for the following year? You said that was the best-selling one. Just out of curiosity, once again, just geeking out on information. Paula, I was fortunate to get George Strait tickets. That's awesome, and I think that's special access. But we see that a lot with those Taylor Swift concerts right now.
How good are the tickets?
That's a great question.
My question is,
should
how
I
good are
auction
the
them or golden ticket? Yeah, great question.
How good are the tickets?
Yeah, if there's backstage passes, if there's
front
row, I'm thinking that's a live auction item.
Well, let me ask a couple of questions. What's the most expensive item you've ever sold in your event? For $5,000. Okay.
Cool.
Well, in this case, do we want to, and I'm not saying take a chance, but if I already know some people that want it, Paula, I'm going to go and pick up the phone and call the people who I know have access and say, "Hey, look, we're going to have some front row George Strait tickets. Are you going to is that something that tickles your fancy?" Yes, it does. I'll pay whatever it takes. You know what I mean? Cool. You kind of get that going. Well, with the golden ticket raffle, everybody will give $100 for a chance for it. So you can bring $10,000.
Yep.
So if I think that they can bring more than $10,000 at live auction, then I'm going to live auction it. Because I know that we can find 100 people to give $100 a piece at a chance for them, because it's a no-brainer, front row tickets. So I that's how I would look at it. I might even, because
the price.
George is standing, the fact that he's on tour again and was kind of done. He's coming back. They're front row. He puts on a phenomenal show. I may put it up to $200 a set.
Yeah, I like that.
$200, and let's raise $20,000.
I love
that's what because those are hard to get. Those are big tickets, and I want to make sure we get something, we get it done. And you're going to have people that are going to buy multiples because they want to go, but you play on that ego thing. So that's probably what I would look at, Paul. I would just, if I don't have anybody that I know it's going to bring 10 grand or more, I'm going to use it for my golden ticket.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Becky, it's so funny you bring this up because I was waiting for my opportunity to talk about the cool backyard or someone on the board that has, an amazing home where you could get a private dinner for,
Mhm.
6, 8, 10, what have you. I have a friend who has an amazing home with a giant view of the mountains and the river. And they used to do that with their home a couple times a year. As a matter of fact, I know folks that have been there for that and have paid top dollar to do it. So I think that's fantastic. Super, super creative. Good job. It's awesome. And you got a lot of amazing chefs in your neck of the woods too. A lot of foodies in the Seattle area. So I think you gotta definitely twist the dial on that when you have the opportunity. That's
Well,
awesome.
all these things go in. I mean, I did an event, and they would have the local bishop would come,
Mm.
and big deal. He would show up, and he did a dinner, and he was a ham. He would get up and ham it up really good. He'd sit there and go, I'd say, uh, what are we drinking so far? What is this? What does this do? And he'd say, right now they're getting tap water. And then the auction would go up, and it'd bring, we're at 5,000, 6,000. It'd go up another couple of thousand. People
We'll give him
bid
a
a couple
glass of
times.
wine. Yeah.
Okay, well, now we're kind of getting to the cheap beer. We're getting cheap. And then by the time it was done, he goes, look, if we'll get to if you'll bid again, I'll crack up, some Chianti that I've been saving back for something. Hands
Yeah.
go up.
Yeah.
It starts really getting that kind of stuff. And so it really depends. Again, it's what you have access to. That's why I was saying that's what people want.
Yep.
We have all the trips to fill in the holes. If you don't go beat yourself up. We literally had somebody trying to find a place in Greece. The chances of you having somebody that has their own house in Greece
Yeah.
in your community, in the community, is pretty slim to
I
none.
laughed. What
And
was another one we
so,
talked about? Where there's, well, it's a theme in Paris.
yeah, that's
It's
what
a
it
night
was.
in
We're looking to see somebody
Paris.
who has
Well,
a
no,
house in
it could
Paris.
be a different one, but they were
Yeah, it's to
talking about it.
whatever.
And I said, what is the likelihood that someone in your community, and it was a school, a private school, what is the likelihood that someone has access to a home in Paris? I was like, well, have you asked yet? Well, no. Well, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like,
So,
okay, that's probably not
themes are
realistic.
great, but what do we
Yeah.
have access to?
Yeah.
What do we have? Again, those things like what kind of special access, if you're in something that has that, or someone that we can do it, you know, front row tickets to George Strait's pretty good access.
That's fun. Yeah.
And just, you know, people want them. And
That
it's
sounds
kind of
like a
like you
really
said,
good
it's the
time.
Taylor Swift syndrome. These concerts are getting crazy right now.
Yeah.
And, to get special stuff, it
Well,
costs serious, serious money. And then you can't even get them.
brother, it's exactly what happened with trips and experiences in our world, right? Travel. We knew that it was going to snap back, that the rubber band was going to snap back because folks didn't have the ability to travel, whether they were afraid to, or they couldn't actually, people couldn't go to Italy for a period of time, right? And we sell a lot of Italy trips. And it was interesting. And we kept on saying psychology dictates that if you take things away from people, they're going to want it even more.
Yep.
And that rubber band has snapped back in a dramatic way, in an astonishing way, where we're seeing things sell. We're talking about the live auction, but we're seeing things sell, villas in a silent auction at events sell for $14,000.
Mm-hmm.
And they never would have given $14,000 to the organization in the first place.
They wouldn't have given four.
It's the same thing with it's the same thing with these concert tickets. You couldn't see a live act. Well, it sounds like people really enjoy that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
I've got another point I want to bring up that I think is really important to keep in mind when you're looking at putting your auction together. If there's something that you can do that's these larger ticket items. Now, if it's a $10,000 trip for two people, okay, you got to have some serious people that have money. But we're talking about, when we start talking about for like groups of 6, 8, 10, and these group travel, the way that I encourage you to look at that is that you're not going to have just one buyer. You're going to have a lot of tables. People want to travel together.
Yep.
We've seen a revolution with suites, villas and things like that happen that we haven't seen in years.
Yep. We're selling villas.
People want to travel together.
Yeah.
They want to travel together. And so you got a table and the table's all sitting there, and the auction's going on. They're like, "Are we in for this?" Because they've already been talking about it. We want to go. We want to go to Greece. Okay,
Yep.
and they keep raising their hand, and one person's bidding, but the reality is, not one person's not bidding right now.
They've already computed what it's going to cost per couple or per person, right?
And I'll give you another great example of how that happens. Another trip to Napa, the same organization that sold the one for $100,000. The next year they have a deal. They have a private. They get a private deal to Opus One in Napa. They get one of their folks that has a jet. He says, "I'll put my plane up." Well, the high bidder winds up being the guy that put the jet up. It's his plane. Okay, so it's his private jet. He gets 3 other people to go in with him. So, or no, I'm sorry, 2 guys. So they give 20,000 a piece. He didn't give 60, he gives 20,000 a piece. It's already his plane. He's already donated. He's like, I get to go to Opus for what it was going to cost, because I'm going to take the plane anyway. Yeah. But I get access to this trip. So it was a great deal for him. So again, that's an extreme example, but how many $60,000 buyers do you have? But if they're going as a group, you group that stuff up. But it's the same thing. It doesn't matter if you've never sold anything for $5,000 or 6 or 7 or 8. Don't be afraid of it, because you've got it. And when I'm talking about travel, somebody that has a place that they're going to donate. And then here's something I would suggest. Negotiate with those. If somebody's going to donate something, negotiate with them. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that I see people don't do, because they're so grateful that they got one that they don't do it. And they're like, hey, they're like, okay, we're going to let you use our place, but you can only, you can't, from here over are the dates that you can have, and from here down you can't do that, and you can only take it this one little
people don't
place.
Like that. It's an inconvenience. It's an inconvenience,
so,
y'all.
Yeah. Well, because they're just trying to do it. So mark the dates, set that up, negotiate with them, say, look, because we're going to do this, would it be okay if we just set a time, a date, and just use this time when it's going to be used? Mm-hmm. So we can just tell everybody. Yeah, that'd be okay. Could we add a couple of days because there's only one of them and the date's not flexible, but we'll let them know that way they can make that? Yeah, sure, we could do that. And then if it brings a certain amount of money, would you be willing to sell 2 of them? Well, I hadn't thought about that. Sure.
I really like that idea.
Do it up front. And they may say, really, you know what? No, I don't want to do it more than once. I'll do it one time. And then, hey, there's only one of these. It's only going to sell one time. My point is, all this is negotiable. Just because, Trevor's said, hey, we're going to have a party at your house. Well, I can keep asking him for stuff. All he's going to do is say no. He's not going to
got a great bottle of whatever.
He's not going to stomp his foot and go, just forget it. I'm not going to do any of it. Yeah. He's not going to do that, especially when you do it with gratitude.
Don't be afraid.
I'm just asking a question. Would this be a possibility? Could we do this? Because we're trying to maximize the opportunity, and we want your donation to be in the very best light that it possibly can. We want it to bring the
talking about it, negotiation. And I think it's in the same vein as having a conversation. Yeah. I think that and I'm not disagreeing at all. I think that also, if after you go around the sun a couple times and you start imparting these ideas in your live auction and you see success and you start getting access to different experiences and you start putting together some rockin' live auctions, hey, listen, it's not beyond you to be creative about it and advertise it and put it in the high traffic area. But if someone tells you can only sell my home once and you feel like it's not matching up with the other live auction items that you have, put it in the silent. I mean, it's for the mission. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, nothing's beyond that. And if you set the right tone early, no one's going to be offended. They're raising money, you know what I mean, mm-hmm. with their home.
Yeah. So Beverly's got an interesting deal. Yeah. She's got 2 people that have volunteered to host a wine tasting for 12.
Nice.
And a whiskey tasting for 12.
Nice.
And the wine and the whiskey are all donated, and so it's all top shelf. So this is class stuff, and Republic is a distributor here. I know this group, so they're putting all this stuff together, setting up for a set date. So they're going to do one. You're going to do a buy-in. I think doing a buy-in for one and doing a live auction for the other is a great way to go about it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily. But in this case, you could do 2 buy-ins because it's for 12.
That's what I was.
There's going to be some things where, you could if you wanted to, there's going to be some things the person's they're going to sign up for one and they're going to sign up for the other.
I
And
think we got
because
some
you're doing
equal
it,
opportunity drinkers, so
well,
they're going to
because
want
you're
to
doing
both.
it per person,
Yeah.
you're going to have a couple that, husband and wife's going to say, well, I like whiskey. She says, I like whiskey too. And she
Yeah.
signs up.
Sounds fun.
And then
Yeah.
he goes, well, I love wine too. And he signs up. So, I mean, you're going to get there and you've got a limited quantity.
Yeah, I think that's
So
cool.
there's only so much because they're like, this thing is going to sell out pretty fast and they will
Yep.
get their name down.
You have scarcity working in your
I
favor.
think scarcity wise, I think you set that down, it'll be gone. And if it doesn't, you just get up there and say, folks, we've only got 2 seats left. Who wants to do it at the
sell it from
live
the
auction?
microphone. Yeah, I think it's
Done.
great. Yeah. I think also, hey,
It's back to what you think. I want to stop one. Just hold on
No,
one
it's
second. I want
good.
to finish this. It's just like I was talking about the George Strait tickets. How can I maximize the opportunity?
Yep.
If I think that I've got buyers who are going to come and buy this event, that are going to buy this and do it for X amount of dollars, then that's what I'm going to do. If I can do it, if I can think I can raise more money with a buy-in, that's what I'm going to do. It's all about your group, your crew. You got to, analyze your donors and what you do. One philosophy is not going to work with all of them. It's kind of like the tickets. If I don't think they're going to bring, more than $5,000, I'm going to put them in the golden ticket raffle. I'm going to use that and raise 10 or 20,000. So that's what I'm about, making the most money.
Yep.
It's not about, what feels good or looks good or what fair has got no place in this at all. I don't care about being fair. I want to be functional and raise money.
Yep. That's what we're doing it for. I think also, hey, there's some not rabbit holes, but there's some, questions that have some depth to them. And this is this topic has a lot of depth and density. So Jason has decades of experience with live auctions, and I've learned from Jason tremendously. And we're both available, by the way. So if anyone wants to just click on the website and hit the free coaching session, we're available on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And we do this every week in and week out. And we're happy to share a Zoom with you to go over any of these particular ideas. Or, Polly, you could have just made, the organization an extra $5,000 just by listening to Jason's 2 cents about the live auction and golden ticket dichotomy. You know what I mean? So it's worth your time. We're giving our time away for free. This is not an advertisement, but there's a button that says free coaching on the front page of the website. Go ahead and click it if you like, and we can talk in more detail about what you got going on. And we're happy to help. And hey, man, we're riding off of a very successful event where the most they ever raised was $4,500 in the live auction. This raised 40. So not like we're hot, but feeling pretty good about things.
Well,
right now,
I want to just assure you, this is all about stuff. This is, if you just keep in mind about raising money.
Yep.
Don't get caught up in all the stuff, because you're going to hear,
math.
well, I don't know if anybody wants to travel international or not. Just put all that stuff aside.
Yep.
Look at the bottom line, do the math. How much money do I need to raise and what do I need to get there? Because usually the people that say, oh, I don't know anybody's going to want to do that, they're not going to buy it anyway. If you say, okay, hey, what would you buy? What would excite you? What are you willing to write a check for $5,000 for? Well, I don't know. I'm not. Literally, we had somebody do that one time, and I was in the meeting.
Sir.
I was in the meeting.
Riding lawnmower.
And the chair said, the committee chair said, well, John, what would you write a check for $5,000 for? Well, I don't know. I just don't know anymore. The point was, you got somebody who was trying to tell everybody what to do, who had zero experience, was not not a buyer. And all he wanted to do is just poo-poo on everybody's stuff, because this was a good group. These folks were wanting to raise some money. So, you got to kind of take some of that stuff with a grain of salt.
Cool. Nice, Paula. Thanks so much for the feedback. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
okay.
We're grateful for you for asking questions.
I got a winner.
Being involved. Oh, we have a winner. Okay.
We got a winner. Sharon Spencer.
Okay, Sharon.
Sharon
awesome.
Spencer. Yay,
Rock
Sharon.
and roll, lady. Rock and roll. That's awesome. Congratulations. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming to episode 114. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? What's next week? 115?
115 is next week. Yeah.
Yeah, fun. No teasers on what we're gonna do next week, so can't tell you. Can't let the cat out of the bag. But it's gonna be.
Hey, if we can help you in any way, and we promise, any feedback that you have for us, good, bad, or indifferent, and if you got anything good out of this today, if you'll please just share this. We're gonna send a link. with a recording of this, if you'll just share it to someone else that's in this world, in the nonprofit space, we really want to get the word out to them. It mean a lot to us. That's all we ask. You know, we come on here, we try to give some good information. If there's something that you guys would like to hear about, shoot us an email, jason@hjfundraising.com,
Perfect.
Trevor at hjfundraising.com. We'd love to hear that. If there's something about fundraising that we try to keep it, you know, we try to kind of keep it in the zone of fundraising, but something that you'd like to learn more about, we'd love to hear.
Yep. Yep.
And until
Awesome.
next week, we appreciate you. Go out and raise more
Thanks,
money.
everybody. Thanks, HGA Nation. We'll talk to everybody soon. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Thank you, brother. As always, awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks,
man,
everybody,
thanks,
for
Trevor.
sharing. We'll talk to you all soon, okay?